Welcome back to Kevin Toll Reads, the guy who said he was going to slow down, but yet here I am with an impromptu book review. I wasn't planning on reading this book, even though it's been on my TBR. I was going to pause. I have some other books that should be taking priority in the next 24 hours. Obviously, I have the live stream coming up in a few hours, so I'm trying to get this book reviewed and uploaded because, well, I really enjoyed it. And I had some time, I went through it, and I was like, I just ripped kind of through it. It was one of those reads that were just cozy and fun. So let's jump right in here. Before I make this a complete and utter mess, Lawrence Block, Burglars Can't Be Choosers, is the first book in the Bernie Rodenbar series, published in 1977, a whole year before I was even born. I feel really old. I am old. But we're moving on. This mystery fiction crime series book is a cozy, fun little read. And so let's talk about the summary of this thing. Bernie Rodenbar is a professional burglar who prides himself on not only being a gentleman when it comes to the crimes that he commits, but he's a gentleman to the ladies too. Kind of a ladies' man when he's not, stealing stuff. And he takes upon a job based on an offense, and lo and behold, the job goes kind of awry. The police show up, and even though one of the police officers in the New York Police Department knows of Bernie Rodenbar and his infamous exploits, they uncover a dead body. And that's when the whole thing kind of unravels for Mr. Rodenbar. He has to evade police, but also try to uncover and stay undetected while figuring out what happened, because Bernie Rodenbar didn't kill this person. And so this is all an interesting little caper, but yet you get a kind of whodunit type thing. It's very, very well done. I really enjoyed this. So let's talk about what I enjoyed. So I really like Bernie Rodenbar as a character. I think he prides himself, on working alone, and he only kind of chooses his own cases, this being kind of an exception to that. He works through a couple of different fences, and he gets in over his head, and things are just a mess. And what you think is going on doesn't actually come to pass of what's going on. And without spoiling anything, I just wanted to let you know that. I really enjoyed some of the conversations between Bernie and a couple of the fence people. I thought their witty dialogue was just right up my alley. It has that kind of The Office kind of humorish. I don't know how to describe it really. I really thought it was a very interesting premise. We're trying to figure out who killed this gentleman named Flaxford, in this house that Bernie's going after an item for. And it was just really interesting. I liked Ray and Lauren, both of the cops that show up when Bernie is inside the house going after this item. And they're crooked, but they're not crooked in the sense that they're going to, cut fingers off or try to, take the kneecaps out of Bernie Rodenbar. They're looking for a way to supplement their pension. And so Bernie Rodenbar knows this. He works in the system. Hands are greased. And things seem to be like they're going to take, a turn for the better. And then lo and behold, things turn awry. I really liked Elaine, who comes into Bernie's life kind of in a mysterious but yet intimate way. They develop a kind of physical relationship. I thought their dialogue was also really good, and their connection in here was really good. There's definitely some twists that will come as well. Even though the story was written in New York City and it's obviously written during the 70s and 80s, I didn't feel like it was dated. There was nothing that Block talked about in this story that makes it very dated. I know some of his other series, the John Keller series and the Matthew Scudder series, some of the details to those crimes and what takes place in those stories and tales can date the story a little bit. This one kind of stayed up in the 20,000 foot view where you didn't get down into the minutia enough to where it kind of felt dated for something that's been written, close to 50 years ago. And so I really appreciate that. I really liked Darla Sandoval. I thought she was an interesting character that comes into this story as well. And the fact that she may be uppity and living on Park Avenue, but at the same time, she has a dark side, and it's evident in this story and comes to pass and plays a role in this story. I also like the fact that Bernie was very interested in possibly getting back with Darla at the end of the conclusion of this thing in a way that you wouldn't think of. Maybe you would. But he also thinks that her husband's coin collection is mighty nice as well. So I'm interested to see where the series goes, to see if that comes into play again. I'm hoping it does, because that was a nice little setup for maybe a future kind of story arc and kind of a tie back or Easter egg here. So there is an excerpt that I wanted to read. When you were talking about Bernie Rodabar and his character, I think this is a pretty good one. I found this earlier and I made sure I made note of it. But it comes to here in this kind of conversation. I know how to operate in New York. When I steal something, I know who will buy it and how to negotiate the sale. The cops know me, which in the long run does you more good than harm, although you might not think so. Oh, there's any number of reasons why a burglar is better off operating in territory that he knows in and out. I don't even like to work outside Manhattan. And that comes to Bernie. His character is, he knows what he wants. He doesn't want to do anything but be a burglar, and he knows his limitations. And I think that's why he kind of stays on the right side and kind of stays kind of scot-free and, not being thumbed all the time and looking over his shoulder. And I think that's an interesting kind of depiction of that through that conversation. In terms of rating and overall, I gave this a 4.4. I think it's great. It's just a really enjoyable read. I'm glad I reread it, obviously to do the review here for my channel, but I enjoyed the reread through it because it still kept me engaged. It brought me back to Bernie Rodabar. I think he's a great character. Yes, I have way too many series going on, but this is definitely one that I want to continue down that path. Lawrence Block, again, one of my favorite authors. I'm reading the Evan Tanner series. I read all the Scudder series, all the John Keller series multiple times, and I definitely want to make it my way through the Bernie Rodabar series. I think these stories kind of really do justice to Block's writing. It's just warm, cozy kind of mystery. There's not a lot of effort here. It's a small character universe. The premise is pretty straightforward, but it's done well with enough twists to keep you guessing, and has some reveals that gives you a satisfying conclusion. And that's my take for Burglars Can't Be Choosers, book number 1 in the Bernie Rodabar series. I believe there's 12 of these things out now. He wrote them from the 70s, I think, into the 2010, 2012, I think was his last one. So definitely some staying power, and definitely there's a reader kind of universe out there looking for these. So I hope you enjoy my review, and I hope you have the great rest of your weekend, and I will talk to you all in the next one. Thanks.